I'm Rhonda Massad from the West Island blog. Racism towards Black communities in Canada isn't new. The current wave of protests across North America may shed light on the more recent cases of discrimination and violence, but Black Canadians will attest to the many ways their communities have endured racism throughout our country's history, both personally and through our education and healthcare and political systems. This interview with Tracey Steele is intended to raise awareness to the challenges faced by Black residents specifically on the West Island. Tracey Steele is a longtime friend of mine and the owner of Tracey Steele Music Academy. In 1988, Tracey founded the piano program at the Dollard Center for the Arts, a nonprofit fine arts organization affiliated with the city of Dollard-des-Ormeaux. She taught piano there for almost 25 years before founding Tracey Steele Academy in 2012. She is a 50-year-old aerobics instructor, prize-winning bodybuilder, and a cancer survivor. Tracey, that's a big intro. How are you?
Thank you. Fine, thank you. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Nice to have you on board today. Today I was specifically, I mean, you and I have talked cancer, we have talked fitness, and I've partaken in your classes when I was a little bit younger. Today I want to talk to you about your specific experiences as a Black woman in the West Island, and I think I'm going to just let you take it at this point.
Yes. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to even speak about this, because I'm really passionate about it. And a lot of people that know me, they know I went to West Island College. I grew up in the suburbs. There wasn't very much diversity where I grew up. And my parents always, when I was about 12, they had the talk with me about how, you have to really be careful to make sure that you don't, everyone has to make sure that their friends are always on the up and up and not doing anything wrong. But they had the talk letting me know that, when something goes wrong, the chances of people pointing at me, even if I didn't do anything wrong, there's always that thought in people's minds. So that's how, my awareness became I became more aware as an adolescent. But
that's a question a white person doesn't have with their children.
I don't know it. Even with my little students, I try to, tell them you have to be better, and always encourage them to be that much more to be able to be recognized, and people don't realize how just in everyday situations. For instance, 2 years ago, I was shopping at a Super C, and the security guard thought that I was stealing something. He didn't see me taking anything. I just came out of the store, and he grabbed me. He didn't announce himself or anything. He grabbed me, and they thought that I was stealing something. And then when I called the police, because here I was thinking I was being, assaulted. Exactly. He said, well, she looked kind of suspicious, and I thought that we should check probability of her having taken something. And he just based it on what I look like, and I was dressed in gym gear. I was coming from the gym, so little things like this. Another example is a couple of years ago, our house was robbed, broken into. We came home at night to find that our house was broken into, and when my husband and I didn't know even if the robbers were still in our house, so we ran outside on the lawn and called 911. And to imagine we were horrified at the thought of being broken into. And through all of that, we had to think to tell 911, to tell the police that we're the owners and that we're Black, so that when the police come and see us on the lawn, they wouldn't jump to the wrong conclusion and think that we were the robbers. It's things like this that we're living with all the time. And unfortunately, it shouldn't be the normal, but we have to always think of things like that.
And you were I'm guessing that you were hoping, I know I was when I was raising my children, I was hoping that for this generation, it would have been over, sort of. I thought it would, we could finally be done with this, the discrimination, and it's not the case. And you know what? It's almost that it's gotten it's not that it's silence, but it's like insidious, because we don't talk about it, so I don't hear about it. So knowing that it's on the West Island, I guess you kind of know, but you don't really, it's not reported on, it's not talked about. We're not talking,
Yeah.
I've known you forever, you've never told me this.
And the thing about it is that, there's always people, we can't necessarily change how people think. But, we can try to change, just because there's one or two bad people doesn't mean everyone is. That would be, the police, for instance. But when people become more aware of these kinds of things and start talking about it more, and becomes a little bit, then people can check themselves as well and see, think about how they're reacting to things, and and this awareness and this whole discussion is these types of discussions are really important, even amongst our society, but also in the workplace and school systems, teachers, everyone has to kind of be on board.
Did you have any issues at university? We talked about it, so I do know.
Yes. I know that when I was in university, I had to go to the Black Board of Educators to speak on my behalf, because in the 90s they did studies that showed that entrance into certain programs like education, for instance, they were not accepting minorities, blacks to be specific. But there was a high discrepancy of minorities in particular programs, and when they really investigated further into it, they saw that only minorities from foreign countries were tending to get into certain programs, and that is an example of systemic racism right there. Because
But just to clarify, Tracey, what university are we talking about?
We're talking about McGill.
Okay.
Yes, we're talking about McGill. And so, if things are put into place from the university level, and if students aren't getting into particular programs, well, then they're not going to graduate as in those particular professions, and that's how you can control the community of teachers or lawyers or doctors or whatnot. It wasn't in all the programs, but particular programs, and it starts from the school level and who's getting into the programs.
Right. Which dictates who's going to have the jobs when school.
Exactly. So if it's stopped right there, then and that was investigated, and so things started to change a little bit after that investigation. But it took all of that, and that's the frustrating part of it.
I think people have grown almost deaf to it, in my mind. Like, it's not that we know there's a history. We all know there's a history, and you kind of figure, I don't know. Like I said, it's silent.
Yes, it's silent, and people are just really busy, busy doing their thing, and and when it doesn't affect you, or it doesn't, if it benefits you even, then the push to make a change is not there. It's so interesting that all of this happened during the COVID, when people were at a slower pace.
And had to listen
And weren't rushing off to work or anything. I think it was very interesting how everything kind of happened all at once. It made it worse, but at the same time, it might have been a good thing that people actually had the time to listen.
I think it's shedding a light that we just can't shut off. I'm hoping it's shedding a light that we can't shut off.
I'm hoping so too. It's
not something, you expect the West Island to be somehow better than this. That's my feeling. Like, I just expect that we're civilized, we're educated, and we're not living in like the dark south of the states. Like, we're all, for God's sakes, like, I just don't expect to still deal with this.
At the same time, the West Island is not as diverse as other parts of the city. And so for that reason, you may see, lack of exposure to the kids, having lack of exposure to many different minorities, and that's where it could also start. It's just something, if it's new, So the West Island, I can tell you for a fact, it is not it's not it's not, you know, immune to the same you know, the same kind of feelings as the rest of the city. But I understand what you mean in terms of, you know, we are the West Island has a high level of education, and you know.
I mean, knowing this and being 50 years old and you've lived here your whole life,
Yes.
why wouldn't you move to a place that would be more acceptable? I mean, it's your life we're talking about. Like, I'm just wondering.
I am a West Islander at heart. I grew up in the West Island. I love it there, and I think that the families, and you know, I've worked with kids. I feel like I've raised half the kids in the West Island through all the day camps and everything that I've worked in. I love the West Island, and I don't think that, you know, I think that people want to do the right thing. They're just not aware.
I was talking about this with Kemba Mitchell, the chairman of the West Island Black Community Association.
Yes.
Saying it's more, it's people do want to do the right thing, and the way, and I told her, I said, people don't know what to do. So silence to her was unacceptable, and I agree, except that I know for my own self, even as a blogger, I took a few days to figure out what exactly I wanted to say and what would be valuable contribution. I didn't want to insult, which is a problem. You don't want to say the wrong thing.
Yes.
And everybody's got an opinion on it. And I also didn't want to contribute to the negativity. So people don't know what to do, and so say nothing at all, which seems to be a problem as well.
Yes, I think that the most important thing that I know for myself, and I think I can speak for the rest of the community in saying that validation is the most appreciated thing. Just to validate, and not just to say, oh, you know, it's just your imagination, or, you know, it's just that one person, he was a bad person, you know. These things are happening across the board to my husband, myself, my nephew, like everyone experiences it every day. And so I think validation and just admitting that these things happen is the first step, and it's very appreciated. And then, you know, and talking about it, not just shutting it and pushing it in the back of the corner. That gives validation and to our feelings, and you know, and is a step towards change.
Communication, that's what Kemba was saying, is communication
Yes.
is going to be key to this. And I think if we keep talking about it,
yes,
it get brushed under the rug or turn, you know, it's uncomfortable. So I'm going to just look in the other direction.
Yes, exactly.
It's I think this is a good way that we're getting through this. What do you see? What do you feel after the demonstration, the protest on Sunday?
I feel that, you know, first of all, it's very touching to see all the people that came out and stood up from all demographics, from all races. I find it very, very touching and uplifting. It's a feeling that I haven't really felt in my life before, actually, of people actually standing up for, you know, what's right, and that sense of validation and that sense of caring. So if I just hope that, you know, it can continue, and the conversations, you know, don't die out, that, you know, that this cause continues moving forward.
Okay. Any other solutions? Any other way you're going to be getting involved in this, or are you just going to let this play out?
Oh, I continue to, you know, to stand up for what's right, and to, you know, continue to, if there's any kind of discussions that are to be had, to continue with that. You know, hopefully when this whole social distancing is over, we can maybe do things to raise funds or to spread awareness. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add today?
The only thing I'd like to add is that, you know, hopefully we can reach out to the kids who saw everything that happened in the States, and who are trying to process all of this, and hopefully we can address the kids and help them to be healthy through all of this and come out healthy.
Okay, that's something that you would be addressing probably in your travels, in your teachings, because you're.
Oh, absolutely! All week I've been having to just kind of help the kids process all of what's
happening. How are
happening.
they feeling? What is your experience there?
So mixed feelings. I can tell you, my nephew, he asked me the other day, he was telling me how he wished that he could be white. so that he wouldn't have to be scared, and that he wouldn't have to, be scared for his life. And I told him that he has to continue being good and showing people how good he is, and that he should be like Martin Luther King and stand up for his rights and be a good person. And he told me actually that, but they killed Martin Luther. That was his response. And so I had to talk to him about, not being afraid to stand up and to continue to be good, and that, and in the end, the world, will balance itself out.
That must have been a rough conversation. How old are you now?
It was. He's 11. He's 11.
And he's a West Islander, I assume?
He lives in Dollard.
There he does. All right. So this is not something that is exempt from the West Island. This is what part of our community is living with and dealing with. And it's time for us to do better. And through communication, I think that's the way we're going to do this.
And thank you so much for inviting me to speak on this topic, and for continuing to always, help the West Island with all of these issues and things that are coming up. I'm very grateful for you and what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And anybody who wants to get in touch with Tracey Steele, you can head over to the Music Academy. It's the Tracey Steele Music Academy, and I think it's on Facebook, yeah?
Yes, I'm on Facebook, Tracey Steele Music Academy. Yes.
There we go. All right. Have a great one, Tracey.
Thank you so much. Bye.